The Merkel diamond, even Ukrainian politicians have imitated it.
In France, Angela Merkel is Germany.
Under Angela Merkel, Germany became sexy and popular.
I really can't imagine right now, being in a press conference and the German Chancellor speaking. It's not her. It's going to be somebody else. It's going to be very hard.
There's a lot of hagiography, there's a lot of sort of celebration of Merkel's leadership, and I think it's important to stay away from that.
In Italy, Angela Merkel has left a very, very bad impression during the Euro crisis. It's still hurting.
16 years of Angela Merkel might not have done Germany that much good. There's actually a lot to do in this country. Digitalization, schools.
What did Merkel achieve for Germany? What was the big Merkel project? I am Patrick Donahue, a reporter for Bloomberg News here in Berlin. I've been covering the German Chancellor for most of the duration of her long tenure. She's very professional. She does her job over here, we're over here. She's not very chummy with the press.
She doesn't really care about her visual image in that she caters to photographers at all. She doesn't really like to be photographed from the side, but that's about it.
The difference between her and a lot of other world leaders is she doesn't exude the sort of, arrogance that a lot of leaders have.
It's a challenge to photograph her in a way to show that human quality of her. So this was at the Cebit trade fair. So she was doing her tour of the different stands. So she takes this red one in her hand, and then she pretends to slip it in her pocket as if she's going to take it home. It was one of those little instances where she's having a little fun.
Many prime ministers, chancellors, and so on are, of course, attracted by money, by bling-bling, by glamour. She is not. She is very Northern German, in a certain sense. She doesn't need much to live.
The funniest story we did was about Merkel going shopping in a supermarket after work, completely normally, on her own. She may have had a couple of bodyguards, but it wasn't like everyone was cordoned off.
She's here a lot. I've seen her 6 or 7 times, just this year. Once she bought 2 bottles of white wine. What else did she get? I think it was sausage. I've seen her around the bananas and the onions.
How much do we want to know? She's a political leader. This is not Hollywood.
My name is Pascal Thibaut. I work for Radio France International. In 2005, Angela Merkel came to power, and since then, covering what she does. I never interview her.
You put in lots of requests. In due course, they're politely declined.
I have the impression the more she was in power, the less interviews she gave. If she gives interviews, German media are more important.
I won't miss the fact that she does very, very few interviews with foreign press. The communication was not very good.
In all those years of events and access to the Chancellor, I never saw the inside of her office.
She's not somebody who likes to speak a lot about private life, about private things.
This is a bit of a mystery, how she's private. She wants control also about what she says when it's not public.
I've talked to people who are fairly close to her who will tell you that they don't know what she's thinking. And she keeps her cards very close to her chest, and that's been tactical advantage for her.
Maybe you can explain that also with her past. She was born in the GDR, she grew up there, she learned not to say certain things.
We're out in Berlin making a podcast about Angela Merkel's life and work. This is Prenzlauer Berg. This was a center of resistance against the East German police state. She lived here.
Her political career is totally different from the one of a lot of German, especially West German politicians, because her political career started when she was 35.
We know that Helmut Kohl, when he added her to the cabinet, called her the girl, viewed her as sort of like the woman from the East that needed to fill a quota. She came to power in the party when there was this implosion within the CDU. It was a political financing scandal that brought all the big male leaders in the party down. She was the only one who was more or less untouched. She was viewed then as a transitional figure.
There was a lot of critics against her because of her outfit. She had a very old-fashioned haircut.
She was often spoken about in a really condescending way. It's amazing to me how calmly she dealt with it.
Part of the theory about why Gerhard Schröder called an early election in 2005 is because he knew that the party wouldn't have enough time to find an alternative. And if he was going to face her in an election, he would beat her because she had no charisma. He almost pulled it off, but he was wrong.
After a while, she more or less decided to wear some form of a uniform. She wears the same clothes, just in different colors.
You know, she always has these very big handbags, and she has more than one. At some point, we were, sort of keeping a collection of, here are the handbags and here are different jackets, and they all look the same, but they're just different colors.
If you look at Angela Merkel's career, she's been an incredible crisis manager.
She's led the country through 4 major crises. You've got the global financial crisis, the euro crisis, which took up years, and really the future of the European Union was at stake. The refugee crisis, she was a central figure there. Things went completely the other direction for her.
For me, over the 16 years, the picture, I guess, that stands out the most is the situation where she did a selfie with a refugee here in Berlin. Just the expression on her face, there was just this wonderful human quality that came through. So this was at Munich main railway station, and this was a train with probably 400 refugees, and they're flooding off. And this one young man, he's got this portrait of her. He knows whom he has to thank.
She will remain in the history books also for that.
The refugee crisis is a case where you could really point to something that Merkel did that cut against the grain.
The right-wing populist AfD, which is in the Bundestag, was able to establish itself in the wake of the refugee crisis. That's also Merkel's legacy.
A general critique of Merkel's leadership is that she lacks a certain amount of vision where she wants to bring Germany.
So many reforms have not been implemented. That's maybe the disadvantage of her very cautious politics.
Of course, German economy is very steady for the last 16 years. But in terms of electronic cars, for example, auto driving and all these cutting-edge technologies, Germany is already lagging behind. Definitely the policy didn't give enough incentives. And also internet in general as well. For several years, each year I would do a piece about how slow German internet is. So I think that also definitely stopped Germany for having their own unicorn company, for example, to really get into this competition of the internet age.
She gets a lot of credit for reversing course. I don't know how much she should get. Just as an anecdote, two years ago I was in Cambridge, Massachusetts when she gave the Harvard commencement address, and this young woman who introduced her basically credited her for all kinds of gay marriage in Germany, which she was against. Phasing out nuclear power was another one. She campaigned on extending it, not scrapping the exit, but extending it as a bridge technology. And then Fukushima came along.
For Japanese people, it was surprising for the decision of the phasing out of nuclear power plants after the Fukushima disaster. It was so quick, just after 1 month or so.
It's also an example how the pragmatic Angela Merkel is ready to swap and suddenly to introduce another politic if she thinks it fits to the new situation she has to cope with.
Marriage equality or ending nuclear energy after Fukushima, these things are not really what you'd expect from Germany's conservative CDU or its Chancellor. But she did them anyway. And yet she's popular because she seems to do what people expect.
We will miss her diplomatic skills because no other leader in Europe is so outspoken about human rights and about defending the European values.
She was a gatekeeper of the democratic freedom world because we faced a lot of authoritarian regime.
She knows how to deal with Chinese politicians. She knows you have to give them face. For example, Liu Xiaobo, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, I mean, he died in the prison in China, but his wife is still alive. So that was Germany who really put a lot of pressure for the Chinese government to let Liu Xia, the wife of Liu Xiaobo, come to Germany.
Japanese conservatives criticize her style to accommodate herself to China. Of course, she criticized that the human rights issue, and she never really do the kind of harsh measure against China.
What did Merkel achieve for Germany? What was the big Merkel project? Kohl had the reunification. What did Merkel have? Well, she managed crises. Maybe we'll be able to say better in 10, 20 years, but it's an open question.
She's the most popular politician in Germany, and I'm absolutely convinced that when she will leave the power, there will be Merkel nostalgia. What we know is that she don't want to take another position in the European Union, for the United Nations, or whatever.
I don't know. This is the €1,000,000 question in Berlin right now.
I think she will take a long break.
She deserves it. She worked hard.
You know, I would wish her the best, but as a journalist, it's exciting to see how will the next Chancellor be different.